Hello, everyone coming on in the webinar here. We'll give folks just another minute or so to join us, and then we'll begin. Hi, Eileen. Hi, Albert. Hi, everyone. I hope you're doing well today. All right, I think we can go ahead and begin. Hello, everyone, and welcome to Technology Tuesdays. My name is Lydia Nimke, and I am the adult librarian at the Tippecanoe branch of the Milwaukee Public Library, and I am very excited to bring you today's presentation on Microsoft Excel. You all are muted and have your cameras turned off by default, but please don't let that stop you from asking any questions you may have about today's presentation at any time in the Q&A box down below. With us today in the background, we have the wonderful adult librarian from the East Branch, Beth Gabriel.
Hi, everyone. I'm back again to help feed your questions to Lydia, so do put those into the Q&A as we go along. I'm looking forward to learning more about Excel along with everyone else. So have a good presentation.
Thank you, Beth. So let's jump in and talk about some of the main concepts we'll be covering today. First of all, we'll just go over what Microsoft Excel is, give a general overview, and then we'll talk about some of the basics of using cells in Excel. And then we'll talk about formatting our Excel workbooks and spreadsheets. And then finally, we'll talk about using some simple formulas. As with most things we cover in Tech Tuesdays, this is a very surface level overview of a subject. But if you have more specific questions, I'm happy to try and answer them during the Q&A or direct you to some more in-depth resources that you can learn all about Microsoft Excel with. We have lots of books and courses available through your Milwaukee Public Library library card. So I would highly encourage you to reach out to me, and I'm more than happy to connect you with them. We'll also have a lot of time for demonstration after each of our main concepts today. So if you have any questions kind of related to those, I'm more than happy to show you physically what it looks like when we're in Excel. As always, Tech Tuesdays is recorded and will be sent out to everyone who registered to attend today's session in a follow-up email in a couple of days. So there's no need to take any super extensive notes or anything because you'll receive a recording with the answers to all of your questions and all of that good stuff. So let's go ahead and jump in. So the general features I want to talk about that Excel has are the calculation or computation capabilities, some of the graphing tools, and your ability to use things like pivot tables to display your data in really beautiful ways. Excel is part of the Microsoft Office suite of software. And the version we're using today is Excel for the web, which is a free, lightweight version of Microsoft Excel. So the same way we access our Outlook email, our Outlook calendar, and the way we access Microsoft Word last week is going to be the same way we're going to access Excel today. So we're going to go to office.com and log in with our Microsoft account information. And we're going to access Excel from the toolbar that's on the left. I'll go over this all again in the demonstration, but it's going to be very similar to what we've done over the past few weeks. And once you open Excel, you're going to see something that looks like this. And the top portion up here, let me turn off my camera to make sure you all can see, the top portion up here should look very similar to Microsoft Word. We have a very similar ribbon up at the top that is tabbed with the different menu items that we can access. The difference was when it comes down to all of these series of cells down here. But up at the top, we have our general formatting information, our ability to change font size, highlighting, font color, text wrapping, things like that. And we'll go over all of these more as we go on. So some of the basics of working with cells. Each Excel workbook is comprised of a number of cells organized into rows and columns. And our columns are all labeled with a letter or letters, and each of your rows are labeled as numbers. So whenever you work with Excel, you'll be entering information or content into the individual cells. Cells are the basic building block of a spreadsheet or a workbook. You can also select multiple cells at the same time, and this is known as a cell range. Rather than a single cell name, that cell range uses the cell address from the first and the last cells in the cell range, separated by a colon. So whereas one cell may be A1 because it's in column A, row 1, a cell range that contains cells A1, A2, A3, A4, and A5 would be written as you see here on our slide, A1 colon A5. Selecting a cell is really quite simple. You'll just click on the cell you want to select, and then a border will appear around that cell. And then from there, you can begin inputting your information. And to select a cell range, you're just going to click and drag to select that cell range. Any information you enter into a spreadsheet will be stored in the individual cells. And cells can have different types of content, things like text, letters, numbers, and dates. It can contain formatting attributes, and these can change the way that letters, numbers, and dates are displayed. For example, percentages can appear as a decimal, 0.15, or they can appear as 15%. You can change a cell's text or background color, or you can do something called conditional formatting, where if a number is over or under a certain threshold, for example, it'll turn red if it's over that threshold or green if it's below it. And then cells can also contain formulas and functions that calculate cell values based on other cells in the spreadsheet. We'll talk a lot more about that when we go over formulas. As you begin working with your workbooks in Excel, one of the important things for you to know is how to delete cells and how to delete cell content. Deleting content is actually quite easy. You'll just select the cell or cell range you're looking to remove the information from and push the delete button on your keyboard. Now, if you want to delete the cells themselves, like you have a whole column of content that you no longer need in this workbook, you'll have to select the cell range you want to delete. You'll right-click to bring up a menu and then click to delete the cells. And that allows the workbook to automatically fill in the gaps instead of leaving you with a set of empty cells in the middle of your spreadsheet. You can just fill in that gap. It'll look like it was never there. Another thing you'll probably want to start doing once you get into working in Excel is moving content around. you'll realize all of a sudden, oh, column A should actually be, in the middle, and column C should be the first column, just to kind of make the information flow more naturally. You can move content a variety of ways. You can copy content that is already entered into your spreadsheet and paste the content into other cells, or you can cut and paste content, which allows you to move the content from one cell to another instead of just duplicating it. You can also highlight and drag and drop cells to move their contents. Or you can use the fill handle. If you're copying cell content into adjacent cells in the same row or column, the fill handle is a really good alternative to copy, cut, and paste. The fill handle is also very useful for continuing series. Whenever the content in a row or column follows any type of sequential order, like numbers, dates, days, the fill handle can actually guess what is coming next in the series. So let's head over into Excel and talk about some of these things we just discussed. And here we are. So here we are at office.com. And to get to Excel, again, we're going to go over to the left-hand side here and navigate to the Excel icon. It's green and has an X on it, and we'll just click on that. And when we want to open a new workbook in Excel, we're just going to click this new blank workbook section. We'll click that, and it will automatically take us into a new blank workbook where we can add in the data we may have been collecting by hand or what have you. And if we want to just go back to that main Excel page, we can also open a variety of templates and then input our data in that way. This is really great if you're looking to start a budget on Excel. You can just use the budget template instead of having to create it from, nothing, essentially. All right. So I'm going to open up one of these files down here. And Excel might crash. Fair warning. It's been crashing a little bit for me today. But we'll be able to get it back quickly. So we are on the Home tab here. So we're seeing all the things for editing the font. Up the top here, I'm going to turn my camera off to make sure you all can see. Editing the fill color, the font color, other font options, your same alignment that we went over last week in Word. Text wrapping, merging and centering. We can change what sort of money we are using in our document. Conditional formatting rules, that thing I mentioned earlier, where we can make our data look a certain way if it is less than 10 or over 100, so on and so forth. So here's just a pretty simple spreadsheet. Right here, I have clicked on an individual cell, and as you can see, that cell has a green box around it. I might try and get a little closer for you all. So that cell has a green box around it. I can also see the column and the row is highlighted. So I can see at a glance that this cell I have selected right now is C7. And I can also see this in the upper left-hand corner. If I select a cell range, say all of the last names, I can see that the column is C, the first column is 5, or the first row is 5, and the last row is 18. So this would be C5 to C18. We have mostly text in our cells today in this example, but we also have some formatting up here. This text, for example, is in white and has an orange fill. We even have an image. That's the logo for this example company up here. And as we talk about deleting cell content, very simple process to delete this row. For example, we're going to select the row we want to delete. And if we just want to delete the content, I'm pressing the delete button on my keyboard, and everything that was written in those cells disappears. Handy dandy undo button brings it right back. If I want to remove the cells themselves, I can right-click on the highlighted cells and go to the delete option in the menu that appears and click delete sheet rows. And then you see now that row has completely disappeared. We have one less row of data on our spreadsheet, and that gap has been filled by the data that follows it. If we want to insert rows or columns, much the same way, we'll select the row underneath where we want to add one, insert one, and right click, and we can click to insert rows. And now we have a new row there where we can put in a new leader we are training in this example. Now, if we want to move this content around, say, for example, we realize we want to have all the HR people at the end because they have to get special training on, employment law. We're going to highlight all the HR folks, and we can do this a couple of ways. We've kind of already gone over copy and paste and cut and paste previously, but if you would like me to go over that again, feel free to let me know. But for the drag and drop method, once we've highlighted what we want to move, you'll see if you hover near the border, that green outline that is shown on our selection, you get this like multi-directional arrow that allows you to drag and drop that cell content wherever you want it to be. So you're not moving the cells themselves here, you're just moving the cell content. So we could put those folks at the end, come back up here, highlight these blank cells, and delete these rows. Okay. Now for the fill handle, which is really a useful tool to have, you don't need to go to each one individually and put all these X's. If you've done, what you need to do, you can just highlight the last one in the series, in the row or column, And if you see that little square in the right-hand corner of our selected cell, once we hover over that, we get this large cross plus sign shape. We can drag and drop that, and that will automatically fill all the cells beneath it. Now, as you can see in this final column, I4, under ID number, we have assigned a number to each of these individuals. And we can actually have Excel auto-populate the rest of these numbers for us. So I've started off the series, so Excel kind of has an idea of what I'm going for with this series. So I'll select that series of cells and then go down to find the fill handle and then drag it on down all the way to the bottom. And Excel knows what I'm going for. So it's filled it in from 100 to 114 for me. All right. I think we're going to hop back into our presentation and talk about formatting. So because all Excel workbooks have the same formatting by default, they can be kind of difficult to read, especially when there's a lot of information in them. So just a little bit of basic formatting can help customize the look and feel of your workbook and let you draw a reader's attention to specific sections, which will make your content easier to view and understand, hopefully. So column width is something that isn't automatically set to show all the data you put in at any given time. So there are a couple of different ways to go about that. You can resize each column manually. You can use the Autofit functions. And then as kind of another tool to deal with column width and height is the merge and center tool, which will help you combine multiple cells into one. And so you can kind of do some unique things with that. So I have a short video in this slide that I will play. Oops. So as you can see here, I am hovering in between two columns on the line that appears there. And that brings up my my handle. So I'm able to drag the cursor to the right to make the column wider, or drag it to the left to make it more narrow. And you can see as I do that it's telling me exactly how large the column is. So if I wanted to make all the columns that size, I could. So whenever you see a bunch of number signs or pound signs in your Excel workbooks, that means the cell that data is in is too small to display all of the data. And so as you can see here, this is too small for us to see what numbers are there. So it's just going to show you like a placeholder and number sign, so you can know that there is data there. You just can't see it until you resize those columns. To use the Autofit function, all you do is instead of dragging that handle back and forth to find the perfect column width, you'll just double click that same area where the handle appears, and it will automatically resize the columns to be appropriate to display all the data that is in those cells. And it's much the same for your rows. You can increase the height just by dragging that handle and double click to Autofit. So I think that looks a lot better than when we originally started. I'm pretty sure we already talked about inserting, deleting, and moving cells. So I'm just gonna go forward in the slides and talk about some of the other general formatting changes you can make. Of course, you can change the font size and the font color, but you can also change the color and thickness of cell borders. You can put borders above and below content. You can fill the background of a cell. So the entire, rectangle that is a cell, you can fill that with a specific color to highlight your title or your headings. And there are also a bunch of cell styles that you can utilize to, make your data look very interesting. If you're including it in any reports, that will make it look, like it belongs alongside the rest of whatever you're writing about. All right, we're gonna go into the demonstration. Are there any questions before we head into the demonstration?
Let's see. Arlene asked in the moving section, what about the merge method?
I will definitely show you the merge method in the demonstration. Thank you for the reminder.
Awesome. And then that looks like about it.
Okay, cool. So I'm going to open up this new workbook here. It's the one I was working on in the video there. So I'm just gonna reset it to normal. All right. So if we have a table or some data that looks like this that we're keeping track of, we may very well want to merge and center the title of the data so that it is more apparent. Because as you can see now, fitness progress chart is all written in the A1 cell, but it's kind of flowing over into B and C. So if we were to write anything in B and C, it would pretty much cut off the title. So we don't want that. So what we'll do is drag to select all the cells in the top row over the data. And we'll click the merge button here. So what that merge and center function essentially does is make all of these cells A through I1 combine and be treated as if they are one cell. It's very easy to unmerge them if you decide you don't want I included for whatever reason. You can just push that merge button again and it'll go back to being in the original cell. But if you want to merge and center things so that it's clear that the fitness program chart is the data that comes after that phrase, you can do that. That's a really good tool for titles, especially. Now I see the date function got a little wonky. So I'm just going to add in today's date in this first section and use the fill handle to fill the rest of them. Just to give you another example of that. Now, if we want to make this data here look a little bit more interesting, maybe we're going to print it out to, serve as motivation for us. We can definitely change the font, make it bigger. The cell borders is a cool thing we can utilize, and that is this icon here. We'll just click the caret menu to see the different options for borders. Borders in Excel pretty much can be on any of the four corners of the cell itself or the selection you have selected. So we can use bottom borders, top and bottom borders, side borders. You can even draw the border if you want to, if it's a specific, way you want to have it. As well, let's just go with a double bottom border. And that looks like that. We can have a whole selection of things and click the outside borders, and then there will be a border around the outside of the whole cell range. Or we can do something with individual borders and draw in all of the borders to see something like that. Now, another thing you can do is to fill the background of a cell to, make it look, cool, funky, draw attention to what you are, what's most important to you. So maybe the title, maybe you want to draw attention to the start estimated body fat and the start or in the end estimated body fat. So maybe we want to highlight that yellow and highlight that yellow. And then if you don't want to go through individually and do all this sort of tinkering yourself, you can always come over here to the cell styles and pick one of these themed cell styles to kind of take some of the guesswork out of it. And then that's how that looks from the cell styles. Again, we have to select whatever we want to edit. And we can do something along those lines. Okay. Now, I think we're going to go, unless there are any questions.
Let's see. Arlene would like to know, can you save Excel documents to your own computer instead of the cloud for security purposes?
Yeah, so if you have a desktop version of Excel, you could totally do that. If you don't have the desktop version of Excel, you're kind of limited to saving it in the OneDrive. So that's kind of the negative of getting the free software, is that you are kind of limited in what you can do with it. And to be frank, not a lot. Some of the features you'll find in the desktop, the downloaded and paid for version of Excel are not in the web version. So if you're running an accounting practice or something like that, and you're trying to do it in the web version, you're probably not going to get very far. But if you're just like managing your household budget or managing your address book in Excel, totally that would work just fine. But getting into the more complicated side of Excel, you might run into some issues. You can definitely save a copy of your Excel workbook just by going to File and Save As, and you can download a copy to your computer. Yeah, I hope that answered your question.
Let's see. And then Barbara would like to know, how do you add a list of numbers?
A list of numbers, a list of telephone numbers, or just a list of like random numbers? Or are you talking about continuing a series of numbers?
I'm waiting to see if Barbara will add a little bit more.
Sure. Thank you for the great questions, everyone. A series of numbers. Okay. So I can show you right here. In this weight column here, column B, we can see that in this example, this person 140, 140, 139. So this isn't actually a series that we could really use. However, if we, enter the first 3 of any series, I generally like to do at least 3 so Excel knows what I'm working with, and then you highlight those 3. And that little square in the corner is going to give you all of your power for continuing this series. So once you hover over that little square, click and hold and pull it on down, you'll see the series starts to continue. Thank you for the questions. I'm more than happy to show you that again at any point in time. Awesome. So we'll hop back in so we can talk about simple formulas. And I say simple because Excel can get quite complicated. And what I use Excel for in my day-to-day life has only been these simple formulas and maybe some light conditional formatting. And yeah, we just can't get into the very, very complicated formulas that Excel might have. But like I mentioned earlier, I'm more than happy to connect you with some resources that can get into that. So one of the most powerful features in Excel is the ability to calculate numerical information using formulas. Just like a calculator, Excel can add, subtract, multiply, divide. And in this portion, we'll be going over how to use cell references to create simple formulas. So Excel uses the standard operators on your keyboard for formulas. So a plus sign for addition, a hyphen, minus sign for subtraction, an asterisk for multiplication, / for division, and caret for exponents. All formulas in Excel have to start with an equal sign. So if you're planning to use a formula in a cell, you'll click to select the cell, and before you start typing anything else, you're going to hit that equal sign because that tells Excel that you're typing in a formula. This is because the cell contains or is equal to the formula and the value it calculates. So you can create simple formulas in Excel using real numbers. You can put equals 2 plus 2 if you want to display 4 in a cell, or equals 5 times 5 if you want to display 25. But most of the time, you're going to be using cell addresses to create a formula. And this is called making a cell reference. Using cell references will ensure that your formulas are always accurate because you can change the value of the reference cell and then the formula will update its answer. So as you can see here, the formulas are referencing the numbers behind them. These formulas aren't actually correct. I just found this picture on the internet and it's a really good illustrator. But I have another example to show you in our own spreadsheet. So yeah, but you can see equal, you put your equal sign to show that it's a formula, and then you put the cell name, the cell address, which gives you this result. Okay, so let's hop into Excel again and kind of illustrate very simple formulas. So here is that same thing we were looking at more or less on our slide. But I have already put in the formulas with the correct cell references. So, oh, I knew that was going to happen. Okay. So what we have here is a formula. And Excel is really nice about this now. Didn't used to have this where it will kind of graphically highlight the cells you're referencing so you can, see visually what you're referencing and not just rely on your ability to see C3. So let's take these out. And I'm actually going to, we've deleted all the cell contents. So we can put them back in so you all can kind of get an idea of what goes into creating the formulas. So in each case, we're going to add, subtract, multiply, divide, and these numbers. All right, here we go. So we're going to start with that equal sign, and then we're going to start with the cell address of the first number. Oops, B3 plus B or C3. And it is that simple, and now we have the correct answer. Because we have done it this way, instead of saying, for example, equals 3 plus 2, which still gives us the right answer, but because we said B3 plus C3, we can change either of these numbers and the answer will still be correct. Now, I'm not actually going to fill out the rest of these. I will fill out one more for B4 minus C4 equal sign, and we get our correct answer. Again, if we change that answer, if we change either of these numbers, the answer will be correct. I'm not going to fill out the rest of these. Instead, I'm going to use the fill handle to fill the rest of these cells with the formula. So again, that little square in the corner, I'm going to hover over that and click and then drag it down. Oh, no, I'm not. It just copies the formula exactly. So multiply by 10 and C5. All right. You can also use your formulas to calculate totals as a result of formulas. So if you wanted to find the total of all of these formulas here, we could put an equal sign starting our formula, and then we'll, because it's a series, we have to start with a parentheses, and then we'll start with D3, put a comma, D4, and so on. And you can do that all the way down, but what I'd probably do is put a colon and then go to D7 and close that up. Whoa. Guys, I have used Excel before, I promise. I don't know why Excel is not being friendly to me right now, but one day I will figure it out. While I'm figuring out why Excel is not my friend today, I see Arlene's question, and she is asking, how did I recover that information from when Excel crashed? And the answer is Excel autosaves all of its information. So because it's saved to the OneDrive, it automatically saves everything I input, which is very helpful for things like when your internet grows out, because it's all on the web, right? It's very helpful for if you happen to have a power outage or whatever the case may be. You don't have to necessarily remember to save your documents. I know what I was doing wrong now. I forgot to put the formula. So when you're adding things and you're not necessarily using, adding two individual cells or two individual numbers, you have to use the function sum, which I forgot because I don't use Excel that much, unfortunately. And so we have the sum down at the bottom. Thank you all for bearing with me. So we've got equals the sum of this range of cells, D3 to D7, and then we have our answer. So now, because we have all of our cell references set up correctly, we can actually change anything here and that'll change the resultant answer over here, which changes the total down here. And we don't have to worry about any of these things kind of getting messed up because we have set up our cell references appropriately. Okay. Any other questions?
Let's see. Could you just show us again how if Excel crashes, what you would do to recover the info from the cloud?
Sure. Absolutely. I just pressed the refresh button to reload the page. and it just brought me right back to where I was essentially. If your computer shuts down or something like that, what you can always do is go right back to office.com and you'll be able to pick up right where you left off. You'll be able to see that Excel workbook we were just in was last saved, last worked in just now. The Cell Basics one we were in at the beginning of today, we last edited 37 minutes ago, so it's really saved like down to the minute. Great question.
Okay, and then Maria would like to know, can you give info about Excel continuing sessions? On, like, I'm guessing a little bit more advanced sessions.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. One thing I always like to recommend to patrons of the Milwaukee Public Library, at least, is our Gale Courses database. And that has a class in Excel that I could share with you all. I also like to use digitallearn.org for the resources it provides. I'm going to share these links with you all. Gale Courses is really great because there is an instructor and they are, you know, professionals and they can help you and answer your questions very specifically. And then you also have other students. There's a discussion board where you can chat with them about, you know, if they're having issues merging their cells or what have you. Let's see, what else is there? There are all the books in the catalog that have to do with learning Microsoft Office and Excel. And what I love about our books specifically is that not everyone has the latest version of Excel, right? You might have the desktop version, but maybe it's the 2013 version of Excel, or maybe it's even older than that or a little bit newer. You can probably find a book at the library for the very specific version of Excel that you have on your computer that'll help you a lot, you know, in depth with what you have available to you. So you don't have to kind of translate this language that you're just learning into being applicable to your 2019 version of Excel or to your 2012 version of Excel. It's very helpful. And any librarian at the Milwaukee Public Library will help you find a version as long as you know what your version is. If you know you have Excel 2009, we can probably help you find some materials for Excel 2009. And the last one I use is usually linked in my sources at the end of my presentations. And that's GCF Global. And they have courses with videos and you know, practice workbooks you can download. I downloaded some of the practice workbooks for today from GCF Global. So that would be very helpful as well. Thank you for asking, and I'm excited you're interested to learn more. All right, any final questions?
Let's see. Diane would like to know, can you create a survey using Microsoft?
Let me see. I don't know specifically about the free version. You can, but I don't know specifically about the free version. Let's take a look here. I guess you can in the free version. It's called Microsoft Forms. You do have to dig a little bit to find it. So from home, you're going to go up to the grid menu if you've never opened Microsoft Forms before, and look for all apps. And it's just called Forms. Has an F and like a multiple choice button there. And you can create quizzes and forms and surveys and things of that nature from there. Are you interested in A Tech Tuesdays on Microsoft Forms? Any other questions?
Let's see. Maria is asking if they have a document and they want to update it, but it is a PDF. What can I do to be able to type on it?
Ooh, so depends on a lot of things. Depends on a lot of things, Maria. Is it an editable PDF? If it's not an editable PDF, you're probably going to have some difficulties making changes to it unless it is unless you have a pro or premium version of Adobe. And then you can make edits to all sorts of PDFs. But if you don't have a premium version of Adobe PDF reader, it might be a little difficult. But if it's editable, you should be able to open it and see these gray blanks, like in all the places you can edit. I know that wasn't very helpful. I'm sorry.
All right. And then a follow-up to the survey question. Diane is looking for a way to send a survey to their bike club members and looking for something at no cost that they can use.
Yeah. Diane, you could use Microsoft Forms. You could use Google Forms. Yeah. Is that what Google Forms is what it's called, right, Beth?
I've used Google Forms for
Yeah.
that, which is pretty simple to do and free, especially if you have a Gmail account.
Yep.
Anyway.
Yep. Yep. You could definitely use Google Forms, Microsoft Forms. A lot of other surveys sound like they're free, but they come at a cost if you want to have more than like 5 questions. Oh, I see Angelica's question, and that's an interesting question. Angelica wanted to know if there's an Excel course offered for assisting with beginning to do a 3-year projection for small businesses. And Angelica, I would encourage you to get into contact with our business department of the library. We have a whole business department full of super knowledgeable business librarians downtown, and I can put you into contact with them, and they might be able to help you find some resources for that specifically. They do a lot of small business help and small business programs as well. That might be of interest to you as well. Great question, Angelica. Maria, I think we're gonna have to talk about your PDF like one-to-one, because I'm sure I can help you with it somehow if it's editable or if it's not. I definitely want to make sure you're able to do what you need to do. That's like my favorite thing. So I'll find some resources to send you specifically as well. Yeah, if you want to come to Tippecanoe and visit me, I'm here. Thank you so much for that, Beth.
Yep, it's a good place to start, and then you can call Ready Reference to get hooked up with a human being if you have more questions.
Absolutely. Thank you. Thank you. Wonderful. Well, thank you all so much for joining us today for Tech Tuesdays and learning about Excel with me. Next week, we actually wrap up Microsoft May with a discussion on PowerPoint, and that's our second to last Tech Tuesdays for the spring. If you are interested in any other programming from the Milwaukee Public Library, I highly encourage you to visit mpl.org/calendar to see our list of upcoming programs and events, both in person and virtually. Once again, thank you all so much for joining us today. I'll see you tomorrow, Maria, and I hope you have a wonderful rest of your week.
Thanks, everyone. Have a good one.